All right. Well, good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, October 1st, 2024. We're pushing into the fourth quarter of the year. And there was a lot of clues for the market to pull back yesterday. But just like the bulls have been on the pullbacks, they were pretty strong in their response, right? So let's take a look at what happened here coming out of the open yesterday. So it was pretty sideways, and I did warn you guys, let me pull up the higher time frames really quickly. If you recall yesterday, let me see if I can just move this in close. On the higher time frames, I warned you that this pocket right here, we have the Hopeful, we had 50% the previous day, we had the close, we had our roadmap level, which just so happened to be the previous daily low. That typically happens pretty often. Our roadmap levels are the daily power levels as well. I told you this whole pocket in here was most likely going to be a choppy area to trade in. So let's take a look. That's that whole kind of cluster in there of levels. And as you can see, all morning they traded all inside here, and it was pretty messy, right? So it was kind of an indecisive market. And then we started getting the sell-off, which is what I warned you guys was in the cards from the all-time high. So let's take a look. Out of the open, you did have an opportunity to fade the holy orange power level. If you did, you got yourself a nice 10-point fade to the downside. If you missed out on fading the Hopeful there, remember this just went through by 4 or 5 ticks max. From there, the back end of Hopeful became your friend, especially with that beautiful divergence on the second test. And if you did that, you were able to get, 6, 7, 8 points out of it. I don't think you were able to get 10 points at that point because it got down to 78 and came all the way back, right? So it was maybe an 8-point fade there. And then we got a little pop, maybe getting the bulls involved. And if you did try just buying the roadmap levels, it did pull back and hold every single one to the tick on the way up. And then even on this additional pullback here, you got one as well right off of the 250% of last week. And then finally off the Hopeful there, if you were to just look in terms of the stair step type of price action. From there, again, it just came up, made a high for the day. And then, came a couple more ticks higher there, a couple more points higher. And then the sell-off occurred. So as you can see, it wasn't inside of that range I warned you about. It wasn't like a beautiful situation. It was just kind of up and down, back and forth, cut through the whole area, came all the way back through it. Still respected the levels in many instances, but was a little bit of a chop fest. And then they got all the way up to the high of the day there. Hold on one second. High of the morning up there around 57.98, and then that's when the whole market dropped out for a little bit. And I warned you, even though we had a very bearish bias from the highs, each of these roadmap levels down below here were most likely or could potentially become a nice strong support for the bulls to defend, right? So it's not like we're guaranteed a 50, 100 point sell-off. Be aware that there are levels down below that we have on the chart, very discrete levels on the chart that make sense for the bulls to jump right back in and try to pop it back up. So on the way down there, as you can see, the first crossover, you got a nice short right off of the 200. The issue is it didn't go anywhere. You might have gotten you should have gotten about 5 points out of it, but then it came right back. So in that case, just a little scalp off the 200, and then after that, as we failed back below the VWAP there and held the back end of it, it was an aggressive sell-off. So what do I tell you guys? In aggressive sell-offs, your fast moving average becomes your best friend, and in that case, the two nice tags of that level, you could have jumped in, even had a decent divergence on the second test for a pretty nice little fade. And I would have taken profit right in front of that first roadmap level and right in front of the second roadmap level, right? And if so, I would have nailed the low of the day right there. one tick in front of our roadmap level, or actually I should say 2 ticks in front, it got the balance, and that was the low of the day. So from there, can zoom this out, we get the push out. It pulls back off the roadmap level, not too surprisingly there, but holds the fast moving average, comes on through and pushes all the way up, back to VWAP for the pullback, back to 50% of the previous day for a pullback. Fortunately, did not hold the 200 on that first test to the tick. It did go through it by 3 points and then eventually came back up, and we were back inside of that whole pocket in there, right? That whole area from around the low of the day before to the holy orange power level, where, what do you know, it chopped around sideways for a bit. And then as the day progressed there, again, we got that aggressive breakout back up through the holy orange power level with a beautiful little kiss to the tick there. And then from there, you got beautiful opportunities after the fast moving average here to try and ride this puppy all the way back up, right? So that was basically the whole day. The last hour or two of the market, the extended trading hour and the final hour, were just basically sideways. You got another opportunity to the tick off your 200 moving average right at the end of the day there, right at the New York close, I believe that is right there, and you would have got yourself a nice 5-point scalp once again. And that was it for yesterday. Wasn't necessarily the most pretty day. It was pretty sideways. We did get the sell-off that we were expecting, but then the bulls did jump in right off of the roadmap level, right? There were some good rotations in some instances off these areas, but overall I think it was a much trickier trading day. That brings us to this morning and the overnight session, and what are we doing here? Just total mess in the overnight session. Nothing is really holding very nicely here. It's just a total chop fest. So what do you know? We're at all-time highs in the market, and the market's getting a little skittish, right? So is what it is. Maybe they're just waiting for that news on Friday morning, right? We have non-farm payroll coming up in a couple days. But that's it. That's the review for yesterday and today. To be honest, bit of a messy situation. So let's go ahead and jump up to the higher time frame.